Good afternoon. Welcome to Community and Technology, where we connect the global community with news, information, and resources that we hope will help improve your life. I'm Mr. Reid. Here's my co-host, Dave Burstein. Hey, Dave.
Hey, I am really glad about the guest we have today because she's doing some really important work that I care about.
Absolutely. Before I introduce her, let me also mention that we are also joined by Jennie Bourne, who's a sometimes co-host and fellow board member of the Internet Society of New York with Dave and myself, and Elvin Vega and Savannah. Savannah, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your last name, but Elvin and Savannah are high school interns that are working with us in various projects, including this show. So, without further ado, let me introduce our guest, Adji Dieng. She is a Senegalese computer scientist and statistician working in the field of artificial intelligence. She's currently an artificial intelligence research scientist at Google Brain in Mount View, California. In 2021, she started her tenure track faculty position at Princeton University, becoming the first Black female faculty member in the School of Engineering and Applied Science, as well as the first Black faculty member ever in the Department of Computer Science. Adji, welcome to Community and Technology.
Hello, Stu. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice introduction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, you want to do some news? Dave's going to do a little bit of news, then we're going to come back to Adji and talk to you in detail, Adji, if you can bear with us. Go ahead, Dave. What's up?
At least 20 and probably closer to 40% of the graduate students and people working in computer science in the US come from China or India. Professor, what is it like in Princeton, where you're working now, or Columbia, where you studied? Do you have many foreign students?
Yes, we do have students coming from different countries all over the world. I myself was one such student when I was at Columbia.
And it turns out that one of the things that just came over before this taping is a project at Princeton led by a Princeton graduate student, some of his peers, 2 faculty members, and an undergraduate from Peking University, who somehow did get a visa to attend Princeton this fall. And without these people, the U.S. artificial intelligence would be decimated. Next story. The last piece of news is I've been looking hard at the huge international AI event that happened in India. I don't think anything is going to work in regulation of AI internationally without everybody being involved. Well, the U.S. government disagrees with me so strongly that they didn't even have any presence there. All the AI companies were there with the top, Sam Altman and people like that. But the U.S. just ignored it. Let's start asking her, what's your advice to young people now that AI is clearly part of their future, but how should they think about it? What is your advice? And then we've got some high school students here ready to ask you questions afterwards.
Thank you, Dave, for the question. My advice, and I've given this one before, is that when you observe AI, there are 2 things happening. You hear a lot of noise about all these new techniques. There are many trends that come and go, but underneath all of that are the fundamentals, like the math behind it. Calculus isn't going anywhere. The physics that touches a bit on AI isn't also going anywhere. So my first advice would be to focus on mastering the fundamentals. Those are the constant set of knowledge, skill sets that are not going anywhere. And so that would be my first advice. And the second advice would be to come as you are, as you enter STEM, as you work in STEM, to come as you are, because you don't want to conform, then you will do what everybody else is doing, and it will not serve you, it will not serve the field, it will not serve society. Your background is going to lead to brand new methods, whether you are working in AI or in a different field. Your background is very important. It's your unique way of innovating. And so I would advise them to come as they are and not conform as well. Yeah.
I just saw on my Twitter feed a thing from OpenAI looking for people to apply to work at OpenAI whose training is not in computer science and mathematics. And we're hearing that. I've been doing a lot of work around medicine with them saying, well, knowing AI is important, but when we try to use AI, we need all the other skills. But let me take the first question here. 2 years ago, a degree in computer science got you a great job right out of college. This year, I'm hearing it's very different and changed. You're at Princeton now. What are you seeing for the students graduating in Princeton with computer science? Is it a great way to get a good job like it used to be? Or are people rethinking things?
In general, the undergrad computer science market is very bleak, a little bit bleak right now. And I think it has to do with a panic related to how people think of AI, that it's taking all software engineering jobs, for example. And so, there are other more geopolitical things related to where the job market is right now. But I think, yes, there is a current problem with the with undergrads graduating and finding jobs. It's becoming harder than before.
So, Adji, tell us a little bit about your journey from a public school student in Senegal to arriving at Princeton. How did you navigate that? What was that about?
It's been a great journey. I'm very grateful. I thank Allah for guiding me through it. Um, it's been a journey. If I think back of wanting to solve problems and help people, that's really what has always driven me.
Hmm.
And growing up in Senegal in high school, I was drawn to STEM subjects because you have ground truth there. You know when you are wrong versus when you're right, and when you have the correct answer versus when you don't have the correct answer. And when you have that, you can solve problems in different ways. The same problem, you can solve it in different ways. And I liked that creative aspect to it as well. And so I liked STEM subjects and problem solving in general. And it's that passion that led me to France and then the US, and now I'm working as a faculty at Princeton.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm.
Let's get the students a chance to ask a question.
Yeah.
Savannah, Sarah, Kevin, your turn.
Hi, so I'm Elvin, and
Hello.
I did have a question. I wanted to ask, how did you first get into the field of computer science and AI?
Mhm.
And also, what is like the first steps you took towards getting that to that field?
Yes, so I've always been drawn to STEM subjects and philosophy, but that's a parenthesis. Um, so I followed my academic journey, going through mathematical training and then computer science training in France as well, doing a statistics master at Cornell before working at the World Bank for 1 year, and then going back to do my PhD in a statistics department at Columbia, but doing work in machine learning. And after that, I found myself at Google and at Princeton. But it's always been about this idea of working on developing methods that can use data and human insights to solve problems. And AI is a great fit for that type of work. That's how I got into being interested in machine learning and AI in general. And when I started my lab at Princeton, I wanted to go a step further and say, well, there are many types of problems. So there are people using AI to develop recommendation systems. Those are the ones you're using, for example, when you're using Netflix or Amazon, for example. There's a recommender system behind that's recommending you products to buy and things like that. I wanted to get a chance to help solve big challenges like the climate crisis or energy or health. And the domains that can help you do that are the natural sciences like physics, chemistry, material science, biology. And so my idea setting up my lab at Princeton was how can I build a lab that can intersect AI with those different areas with these problems in mind. And so that's the type of work we're doing right now. And it's coming from that perspective of when I center these problems, what types of methods do they call for? And that's the type of work we're doing right now around diversity. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. Thank you very much.
Sarah, Savannah, do you have any questions? Guess not. I was very delighted to see that a student from Beijing is going to be starting this fall graduate work at Princeton, because I know that's been a hard thing to arrange for many people. So, you grew up in Africa, studied in Europe, now in the United States. If somebody was looking to do AI, but not in the United States, where would you recommend they think?
There are many places, many great places. For example, in Canada, there's Mila. I don't know if you know about it.
In Montreal.
Yeah, in Montreal, I think it's a great space for AI in general. It's very active. Joshua founded it, but he left now, and there's Hugo La Rochelle, who's the director now. But they have always been. I've been following them. They've always been very active. They're doing courses, of course, but also great research, and they involve undergrads. They involve interns coming from Africa. I know some of the interns there who I know personally who are from the continent, and they also have partnership with companies and for internships and things like that. They're doing, it's a great place, very, very exciting place for AI.
You mentioned Joshua. Why don't you tell people a little bit about what he does? Because Mila and the University of Montreal are natural for French speakers who want to get involved.
Oh, in French, you mean?
Well, talk about the Yoshua Bengio and the respect he's earned in the field.
Oh yeah, he's considered one of the, I hate this word, but godfathers of AI. And he's an eminent AI researcher and a pioneer of the field. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Yeah.
And you're
What's his
now
name,
going to be
Adji? Can you
working
say
with
his
him.
name again, Adji? I'm not familiar with it.
Joshua Bengio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's French, I think from France, but he's now in Montreal.
Mhm.
In Toronto, you have Jeff Inman.
Yeah.
And what about the European schools? What about Paris, where I know you did, where you studied?
Yes, I did my quote unquote undergrad in France. They have a very rigorous system. So, education system. You will be very good at theory. And for example, I followed they have two tracks. They have this called the Grande École track, and then they have the university track. In the Grande École track, you do prépa. It's called class prépa, and then you do an entrance exam to the engineering schools. So I followed that one. And
Was that a welcoming place for somebody from Africa?
you mean in terms of the country or the system?
No, the schools. The
The
Grand
school,
Écoles are the great schools in France
yeah,
that are very elite, very
yes.
prestigious, totally tied into the power that be in France. Was it a place that welcomed somebody coming from Africa?
Mm, I was the only one in my cohort when I was at Henri IV, but the faculty, like my math teacher, physics teacher, and chemistry teacher, they were very kind people. They were very kind people and supportive. Yes.
Jennie, why don't I ask you to come in here? Jennie is a Black woman,
Yeah.
went to NYU in Columbia, grew up as an army brat, which meant she lived in Germany and so on, and now has been going around the world working in technology, wrote to books and technology and so on. What kind of response are you getting as a Black person once you're involved in technology at a fairly sophisticated level?
Well, I wouldn't say it's colorblind by any stretch of the imagination, but it is one of the few, technology is one of the few arenas where things are a little bit fairer. My question is a different one, and that not just as a Black person of African descent, but as a woman, have you faced any challenges in this field?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, when you sit at the intersection of many identities, you get to see you get to see like these different ways people discriminate.
Mm-hmm.
And one that's been very subtle that I haven't seen written anywhere, and I've been saying maybe I should write about this in an article or something, is that people box you right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if, like sometimes with the remarks I receive or how somebody answers, it's as if they cannot see me do the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So they box me in a certain category.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as if you are not allowed. It's like you are not allowed to work in the things you are working on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm working on these things because I'm able to do it, and I'm passionate about the things I'm doing. But somehow for example, in AI, AI ethics is very important. It's extremely important. And there are amazing Black researchers doing amazing work in AI ethics.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have is that now, whenever they see a Black person in the field, they will say you are in AI ethics, and the narrative will be about you being an AI ethicist when you actually are doing something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that ultimately hurts us as people because it's as if we cannot be seen in so many areas. We should be,
Yeah.
yes, we should be everywhere in every field. And so the fact that there's this, we are only, it's not only because it's as if, I don't want it to seem as if it's not important. It's extremely important. But we are allowed to be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that also should be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Keep going, Jennie.
I'm delighted to see you here on the program, but I'm finding the conversation a little bit abstract because we're talking about education, we're talking about titles and fields of study. What I'm most interested in is what excites you about your work in AI. What are you seeing that lets you know that you picked the right profession, that the work that you are doing is important, and that it will change lives and the experiences of people, particularly women and people of African descent in the world?
Yes, I really love that question because the work that I'm doing right now in the lab, sometimes I feel isolated because I'm so passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's not that people aren't seeing the capabilities that I think it can have in AI and the sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, AI is penetrating all parts of society, in academia, in society, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But the work we are doing right now with diversity goes beyond AI. It's something that's applicable to AI, to chemistry, to physics, to ecology, to even the social sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very excited about that. I'm excited about considering this concept that's understood in a vague way. Even in AI, when people talk about diversity before our work, they used to just take average similarity. But that's a very flawed way of measuring diversity. It's such a fundamental thing of nature. It's observable. We observe diversity in our universe. And ecologists have been studying it. But also, when you dive into that literature, you realize that they make very strong assumptions about it. That's, of course, ecological. But then what we've been doing and what I'm really excited about is taking that concept and then trying to deeply understand what it means, and then coming up with a mathematical formula for what we think it should be, and then using that now to build AI methods, making AI better. AI, if you don't embed this diversity thing into AI systems, that's what leads them to be very unfair. For example, they will generate images of only, say, if you use an AI system that produces images, and you ask it to produce an image of a doctor, it may just produce men with like white coats. So that AI system isn't diverse.
White coats and white faces.
Yes, exactly. So the AI system isn't diverse. And so in order to build AI systems that can reflect the rich diversity of, of reality, you want to be able to force that diversity into the system itself. And this thing we developed can do that. You can actually build better AI systems that are more inclusive, that are less racist, that are fairer, in order to make better AI. And an additional thing is that AI being unfair translates in the natural sciences as AI being unable to discover new things. There's a direct correspondence between the two, between AI being unfair and AI being unable to discover novelty. And what that means for science is that you won't have new scientific discovery. We are talking a lot about AI in science, but actually, when you dive deep into these things that are called discovered, we've discovered novel materials, you will see later articles that say, these are actually materials that existed before. And so my work in centering diversity really is to make better AI at the same time that will lead to enable scientific discovery. So you have this full range from the socially meaningful systems to the system that can actually accelerate scientific discovery. And I'm excited about that. I don't know how to say it. That linking those two things that are seemingly disparate is something I'm truly excited about.
And after the break we're about to take, we'll have a chance to talk about her work in artificial intelligence, some of which I think you're going to find quite surprising. Stu, who are we?
We are Community and Technology at WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. And we're speaking with a very special guest, Professor Adji Dieng, who is a professor at Princeton University and a specialist in computer science and AI. We will be right back after a brief musical break, so stay tuned. Welcome back, Community Technology with Dave Burstein and Stu Reid, and very special guest, Professor Adji Dieng, AI specialist from Princeton University. Dave, I think you wanted to have some follow-up questions around some of the science that the professor is involved in. Go ahead.
Jennie and the professor were talking about her experience as a Black woman in a technical field. Professor, tell us about what you did about discrimination in AI and how that relates first to the science.
The one thing that my lab has worked on and has pioneered is this thing called the Venn score. It's a mathematical tool that allows you to measure diversity accurately, and whether it's in AI or in another field. And what we have done with it is we have used it to measure the diversity of the outputs of these generative AI systems. That was work in collaboration with some colleagues at Google, where they showed that if you use a Venn score to measure the output of these systems, you realize that, for example, they don't capture the diversity of if you ask these AIs to, for example, produce a dish, they will produce dishes in different parts of the world, except Africa and sometimes Latin America. Or if you ask them to produce outputs like related to a landmark, the same problem happens. You'll see a lot of outputs in different parts of the world, except from Africa and to some degree Latin America. And so this ability to be able to measure diversity correctly is like this evaluation tool that you can use to probe these systems and see how inclusive they are, how fair they are in terms of what they generate. Yeah, so
tell us
this
a
is
little bit more about the science.
The science, how it works?
How it works, how it's applied to scientific problems, and then obviously we all know the social problems.
Yes. So what the Venn score does is you give it a collection. It takes it as input a collection. So this can be a collection of images from the generative model if you have a generative AI model that produces images, or it can be a collection of answers if you have an AI system that generates answers like ChatGPT or Gemini, or it can be any collection. It can be a collection of molecules, collection of people, collection of anything. And it tells you, it computes the, it computes, how will I say, eigenvalues.
You won't, because we never could explain it quickly on the radio. Most of whom are just hearing it. Using complicated mathematics that I had to work my way through, what conclusions did you come to? What did you show?
It can tell you exactly the diversity of that collection. It will tell you there are 3 distinct items here. Even if you have many duplicated items, so you have a collection of, say, 100 items, the score will tell you there are exactly 3 distinct items because all the other ones are duplicates. So it turns out that when you apply this core to AI outputs, like generative models, you will see that they can be biased in that way.
So it's a measure of diversity, if I'm
Yes, it's
yeah.
a measure of diversity, and it's
Hmm.
applicable to, you can apply it to anything really.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Nice.
yeah.
And one of the things that's become very clear to the people working in AI
Mm-hmm.
is that most fields and most studies, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on AI, medicine, and biology mostly these days, are ignorant of the related fields,
Yeah,
are very focused on what they're working on and their own subfield, and don't
yeah,
do a good job of recognizing how important things might be in chemistry if you're a physicist.
So
yeah,
that's the interconnectedness of things, it sounds like, is
yeah.
maybe missing.
Yes, and that's been something that I've really enjoyed in terms of the work I do, is that we are not narrowing ourselves down to one field. Um, and I think that's important when you're centering the problem rather than centering your identity as being, oh, I'm a physicist, I'm a biologist, I'm an ecologist, I'm an economist. You know, I'm a philosopher. So I think when you center the field you're in, then you miss out. You may miss out on making these very exciting connections between different areas. And I feel like that's actually where discoveries and great inventions lie, at those intersections between different areas. So that's also one thing I'm excited about the work we do, is that diversity as a concept seems to be one thing that like you will find in all these areas, and it's showing itself as, from the work we're doing, I'm discovering those things, and it's always very exciting. It's showing itself as being like a connector, something that spans all these areas. It connects the problems they have. For example, like I mentioned before, this idea of AI being unfair and only being able to generate certain outputs or not depicting certain cultures gets reflected into these other areas as, oh, you cannot discover a novel molecule. Yes, you cannot discover it because you cannot produce what you haven't seen abundantly from the training data. And the training data, is the internet. It reflects mostly certain cultures. Many things aren't present on the internet. We don't find a lot of things, say, from Africa on the internet. When it comes to languages, not all languages are represented on the internet. When it comes to images, you will see mostly, like in certain professions, it's white images, images of white people. So naturally, these AIs being built, being trained on this data, with the current frame, with the previous framework we have been using to train these AI systems, they will replicate just those tendencies. But when you add this diversity constraint to force the AI to look to look somewhere to try to produce something novel, then that's where you see it actually being fairer and more inclusive.
Hmm.
And
And
history has so many examples of this. For
yeah,
40 years, the basics of genetics had been discovered by Mendel, but he published it in an obscure Eastern European journal, and I forget whether it was Hungarian or Czechoslovak and so on. And nobody in science noticed that he had come up with the 3-to-1 ratio that's
yeah,
basic into genetics. And it was only 40 years later, when other people came to the same discovery, that
yeah.
they discovered this obscure paper because it wasn't published in their language.
That's another struggle I will have to mention, is that the thing that's keeping me going is the excitement, behind the work. But it's extremely challenging doing this type of work, because everything in society seems to be, these boxes. When you're trying to publish a paper, we struggle with that because, like, the journal editors and conferences, they don't really, it's like, where does this fit? So paper gets rejected. Funding, I'm lucky to be in a rich school, so we get internal funding. So that helps a bit. But writing grants on these things when people are talking about agentic AI and you're not working on that particularly because you're exciting about the actual fundamental science that can make those things better. It actually it's a challenge. It's not work that it's not that things are all exciting and everything's great. Is that it's exciting, but you hit these roadblocks because of how things are organized. Everything has a box. Everything has to fit in a box.
Jennie
Adji,
had some questions for you.
Let's hear from
There's
Jennie.
Jennie.
Dave, let Jennie follow up on some of this stuff. Jennie.
I'm feeling like we're getting a little elevated for my understanding now, and I think some other people in the audience may be having the same experience. Adji, you mentioned generative AI, and you mentioned agents in AI. Can we back up a little bit and help our audience to understand? When we talk about artificial intelligence, most people's experience is ChatGPT or doing a search or asking it to write a term paper for us. But my sense is that it's a much larger field. And I'd like to hear a little bit about your definition of the field that you're working in, because are as members of the general public, our understanding of AI is quite limited to what the news media says it is and what existing organizations are promoting because of their work. Can we have a little larger view of what this thing is that we're dealing with?
Yes, that's a great question because we hear the word AI everywhere. And I think in people's conscience, it's ChatGPT, it's Gemini, it's the Claude and these other LLM-based systems. Mm-hmm. But AI is
the large language models. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That has dominated the narrative because actually AI as a field got to the public in 2020 when ChatGPT came out. Mm-hmm. Because people now could interact with it and they can do things, related to daily lives and everything. Ask questions, get answers, search and everything, and converse with the system. But it existed way before that. For example, I started my PhD in 2014. I was working in generative models, which are the things the systems you're seeing in right now. Generative AI is about generative modeling. So it's a fundamental mathematical problem, and you have to come up with, ideas, train these things on data and see how it does. In 2016, if you could generate like one paragraph very well, that was a big win. You would have a paper accepted at the top venue, like International Conference on Learning Representation. You would have your paper there. But right now, that's very easy for AI to do. They can write very coherent text and converse with you and navigate the web and synthesize answers and everything. But also, that's just one aspect of AI. The set of methods, I would define AI as a set of methods and tools to make computers solve problems as well or better than humans do. And so the term problem here is broad. It can be answering questions, question answering, that's a problem. It can be recommending products, that's the whole branch of recommendation systems. It can be summarizing documents, that's also, or producing said documents. Or now it recently, we are looking at problems in other areas. There are people in economics now thinking about how do you leverage AI to do economics. And then there are natural scientists and AI, people in AI looking at the sciences. How can you now generate molecules? How can you generate protein materials and things like that? Or even in physics, they will say, oh, how do you simulate this from this distribution in order to compute properties or whatever it is? So people are now specifying their own problems, and leveraging the AI methods that exist in order to solve those problems. So it's expanding. It's expanding. The technology is reaching different areas because everyone can now take their problem and trying to formulate it in a way that makes sense for AI, and they will then be able to leverage everything that exists thus far in AI, all these great systems, these LLMs and such. But there are problems. Then when you do that, depending on the problem you're looking at, you will realize that our current systems fail to solve certain problems. Because historically, the problems we have been looking at are the problems where you have tons of data.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, with anything that relates to text and images, the internet is there. You can train on the internet. And even that is a problem now. The data is available, but what type of data is available?
Mm-hmm.
The internet data is very flawed. There are things missing.
Yeah.
And so even in these other domains, we are not used to the type of data that we find in the sciences, for example,
Mm-hmm.
because there again, even there, AI may not make sense for certain problems because AI takes some training data and gives you things that look like the training data,
Mm-hmm.
even though it may be different from the training data. Scientific discovery, by definition, is you have to get out of what you know already and discover. So AI thus far has been focusing on prediction. Take training data and train to predict. Whereas in the sciences and in other domains, you want to actually expand human knowledge. You want to discover. And AI isn't good at that. And my work has been to say that in order for AI to be able to explore and discover, it needs to express diversity. You need to be able then to actually measure diversity accurately. You cannot just watch it and like we typically do as computer scientists. Sometimes we have this, I hope they're not listening. Sometimes we have this tendency to want to scale things to scale and go big. Then when you do that, you may dismiss certain things. Like diversity I feel like has long been dismissed as, oh, let's just try to be as accurate as possible. That's what AI researchers like you have to be very accurate on benchmarks, achieve highest score possible. But then I'm like, okay, diversity.
Oh, but everybody knows what the benchmarks are, and they
Yeah,
program in the first place to make sure they score high on those
right.
benchmarks.
That's yet another problem. These benchmarks. But we're making progress, and I hope that my work contributes to making things better. There are other people now who are also, looking at this diversity thing, and I hope there will be more people because I do think that it's really a big missing piece. Yeah.
Well, at risk of fanning the flames of fear of I think you've made a very good argument
Yeah.
for something to be afraid of, and that
Yeah.
is the lack of diversity.
Yes.
Because my understanding is that as you're training these models, what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah.
And so encouraging a broader field of knowledge
Yeah.
as a part of the training can only benefit us all. But
Yes.
I can't say I'm optimistic about that in today's political and
Yes.
social environment,
That's right.
because we seem to be in life going backwards from diversity rather than forward into
Yes.
it. So I'm thinking you're quite a radical in this field.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. Remember when I mentioned
Yes
that
and
even
no.
though it's
I
very
just got a paper from David Autor, a Harvard economist with the Nobel Prize, saying almost exactly the same thing, that if we don't do something, it's not going to work
I
out
meant
the way
it
we
as
want
a
it.
compliment.
yes, I love that you say that because that's a struggle. I mentioned that I'm very excited about my work, but it's not that it doesn't come with its own challenges.
Yes. Mhm.
So this word diversity, I've stuck with it because I've received advice to change it to something like more something.
Sexier.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm
Politically
like,
Or
correct.
more tech bro-ish.
yeah, like variability or heterogeneity or those things. But and that may have made my life easier.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's actually what it is, diversity. I cannot like not call it that just to um Yeah,
appease.
exactly. It's what it is. The thing is not that it's not what it is. It is diversity. The problem is that people associate diversity with bad things
Hmm.
when it's actually good. So if anything, I feel like my work is a metaphor for diversity being a good thing. It's a good thing.
Excellent.
Yeah, it enables discoveries. It makes systems more inclusive and safer and more actually performance. It helps performance as well. I didn't mention that, but
Hmm.
yeah, when you develop these AI methods with this diversity as a thing, it makes them better in various ways. Not just it makes things more diverse, but in other ways as well. The performance also is better, and so there's this thing where okay, if you call it diversity, people will dismiss it, but I'm like, it's but as what it is what it is.
Mhm.
There's nothing else I can do.
Excellent.
Thank you
Well,
so much
yes.
for rehabilitating this
We only have a
aspect.
few minutes left. I'd like to hear from our students. I think Elvin had a question he wanted to come back in with. Elvin, are you there?
I do have two questions actually, but we'll see if we could get to both of them. So my first question is, with your experience as a African woman in this field, being as accomplished as you are, do you have a message for any people of color or women or any other minorities that could be interested in this field? Like, what is your message to them based on your experiences and advice that you could give them?
That's a great question. As an African woman, people of color, I actually hate that word, but that's another parenthesis. I feel like it's boxing us as well. Um, as a black person, you will often find yourself in these areas as the only person in the room. But I have learned to actually I've learned to see that as a superpower when you complement it with not conforming to what people are doing. That's very important. Don't try to conform. Don't try to erase your identity to look like something you are not. Your background is super important. I think I've mentioned this before in this interview, but I think that's really something I want to emphasize is that if you're not coming as you are with your background and with the things you care about, your values and everything, you're doing a disservice to you, to the community, to the field even, and to society. And so it's really important that you come with your full self, and that you're, as good as anyone. So there's no, you belong in STEM. You belong in any place that you want to enter is really what I would say. Yeah.
Sarah?
Oh no, I was just clapping.
Okay. Okay, we're just about done. Ajay, I'd like you just to tell us a little bit about the Africa I Know. We just have a couple minutes left. If you can just summarize and share with our audience what that is all about.
Yes, I'm very excited about the Africa I Know. I can tell you the motivation for founding it. It started actually as a Twitter account. Twitter account, and as a way to rebel against this negative narrative around Africa. And to say that it's not, people only portray Africa when they talk about diseases and people needing help, and if they talk about good things, it's about safari and and the music maybe. They will talk about those positive things in only those areas. But rarely do you see Africa being depicted as a part of the world where innovation can come from, and people do discoveries and they innovate and they solve problems, and they study STEM and they develop methods like everyone. And so innovation and that technical side of things doesn't always get portrayed in the media. Naturally, it doesn't fit the narrative around Africa. And so the Africa I Know initially was meant as a counter narrative by showcasing the innovation coming out of Africa people of African descent who have succeeded in these fields, showcasing them. Then the realization that that is actually centering the white gaze. And this actually is most beneficial if you center young Africans, because they are the ones who actually need to hear this message most. Because when you're on the continent and you never see yourself in these things, you may unconsciously think that it's not for you. And so the idea was to actually center young Africans and show them that they can do these things. They belong in STEM, and that there are many Africans around the world, people of African descent around the world, who are succeeding in these areas. They are not visible as they should be, but they exist. So there's work that we do searching for these profiles and writing these pieces of these feature articles or these little mini videos about the work they do, just to showcase that this is a possibility. There are amazing people who look like you who do these things. On top of that, we also now, once you motivate, you also want to provide educational resources. And so we have been doing this Take AI Camp, the Africa Knows AI Camp, which is a brief summer camp where we have 3 phases. The first phase is to show them the capabilities of AI, both the good and the bad. We show them that AI can solve these great problems, but it's also very, very flawed, and they get empowered by that. So the next phase is to teach them the basics of AI. So we go through different areas of AI, spanning, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, those things. We touch at those subjects in an introductory level, and then the third phase is they do a capstone project in group, where the requirement is that they have to identify a community problem, something that's local to them that they care about, and they have to figure out a way to solve it using AI. Of course, we help them with using these online tools and everything. And at presentation day, when they present their projects, you see them coming up with these amazing ideas, present these projects. I'm like, this is why you need to be in this field, because only you can think about this. Only you can think about these problems and find these creative ways. So it's important that we also empower them to own the technology, to know that they can also develop technology to solve problems. And so I'm very excited about the work we do, and we of course need a lot of help and it's a lot of work. Yeah. But we're hoping to expand and actually bring the camp to also the diaspora.
Yeah. That's great stuff, Professor. Is there a website where folks can find out more about?
Yes, theafricaiknow.org.
Okay, theafricaiknow.org. Yeah. Okay, we're just about out of time. Any final thoughts, brief thoughts from Dave or Jennie or any of our students? Go ahead, Dave.
I always like to have a kicker like journalists do. That's a little bit aside. The latest from Chicago. I wanted to name one of the new trucks that is helping clean up the snow. And they had a public poll, and by far the winner was to name it Abolish ICE. That's an ICE.
Nice.
Appropriate for snow repair.
Okay. That's a good one, Dave. Okay, well, this is Community and Technology. We have been having a very remarkable discussion with Professor Adji Dieng, professor at Princeton, on AI and Africa and her perspective as a Black woman who was par excellence in this field. I want to thank you, Adji, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. You opened my eyes in a wonderful, gentle way.
I loved your questions.
Thank you.
And we'd love to have you back, Adji, if you would, because I feel like we just touched the surface on so many things.
Yes, I'd love that. I'd love to come back.
Great.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. This has been Community and Technology, Dave Burstein and Stu Reid on WHCR 90.3 FM every Wednesday at 5 to 6 p.m. and streaming live at WHCR.org. Check us out. Just might learn something. Thanks. Good night. This is Stu Reid, host of Community and Technology, airing every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. For 40 years, WHCR has been the voice of Harlem, providing you with news you can use, emergency preparedness information, and a diverse mix of talk and music shows. Our DJs and radio personalities are all volunteers who come out, rain, sleet, or snow, just like the mail carriers, to serve and keep you connected. I am personally asking you to give the WHCR because there's no other station like it. Telling it like it is, not beholden to any commercial or special interest group. Giving is easy and can be done in 3 ways. Our 40 for 40 campaign is asking each of you to donate $40. That's $1 for each year of WHCR being the voice of Harlem and beyond. Number 1, you can give at WHCR.org online. Just click the donation tab. 2, send your check or money order to WHCR FM Radio, 160 Convent Avenue, NAC Building, room 1/513, New York, New York, 10031. Or 3, if you want to donate now but the funds aren't yet available, just use our pledge line to call and make a pledge and pay later. Call 212-650-7526. That's 212-650-7526. Leave your name and number and someone will return your call. Remember to speak slowly and clearly. Thank you in advance for supporting WHCR, the voice of Harlem, and ensuring our voices are heard for the next 40 years and beyond.